Hi, this is Doug Daugherty with Hamilton Flourishing, and we're so glad you've joined us again today. We're talking to Gary Kuehn, who is one of the 21 people running for school board in Hamilton County. As you probably know, the county has been redistricted because of population growth. We now have 11 people on the school board. So there's going to probably be maybe as many as 7, I think it is, that are going to be voted on in this coming elections. There's a primary that votes in May. Early voting starts in April, and then there's a general election in August. And so, and now we also have partisan elections within the school board. So, someone, whether they're Democrat or Republican, and that can kind of be helpful, I think. And then, so today we're talking to Gary Kuehn. Gary is running for school board District 9 in the Republican primary. Gary, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, wonderful. Well, Gary, first tell us, District 9 is geographically sort of precinct wise, what does District 9 cover?
So District 9 starts on Highway 58, roughly around where the old Kmart used to be, and it heads north all the way up into Harrison and even further north to Birchwood, where the Hamilton County line ends in Birchwood. And then going over to the edge of Ooltewah. So if you know Snow Hill Road in Ooltewah, Snow Hill Road is the dividing line. If you're going north on Snow Hill Road, everything on the left-hand side is District 9, and everything on the right-hand side, which is the Ooltewah High School side, that is District 10.
Okay, and what are the schools that you that are in your district?
So starting with our elementary schools, we have Snow Hill Elementary, we have Wallace Smith Elementary, and we have the brand new Harrison Elementary, which combined populations from Hillcrest and Lakeside and Harrison all together. And for those that don't know it, you don't see it on the highway like it used to be. You have to look up on the hill behind Brown Middle School to actually see Harrison Elementary. The middle schools.
Middle schools, yeah.
Yeah, the middle schools are Brown Middle School and Hunter Middle School. And the 2 high schools that are in District 9 are Central High School and Harrison Bay Future Ready Center, the old Harrison Bay Vocational School.
Well, great. Thank you. Gary, tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you a native Chattanoogan?
No, actually, I was born and raised in Sitka, Alaska. My mother was from Chattanooga and was stationed in Alaska during the Korean War. She was a military nurse, and she met my father, who was active in the military there, and they got married and stayed in Alaska. My father was also born and raised in Alaska. They left from the military base in Anchorage and moved back to Sitka. I came to Chattanooga after my senior year with a baseball and academic scholarship at UTC when UTC actually had a baseball team. and loved it here. I knew my parents were going to be moving down eventually when my father retired. So I stayed and raised my family here.
Good. And how many kids do you have?
I have 3 boys and a stepdaughter. And right now their ages 40, 38, 36, and 26.
So you must have some grandchildren.
Yes, fortunate. I have 4 grandkids right now, 1 brand new, 2 granddaughters, and 2 grandsons. The most recent born on St. Patrick's Day, one of my grandsons, and then have another grandson expected to be born the first week of May.
Wow. So your plate and your wife's plate is full, I suspect. So,
Yes, but
well,
this is,
congratulations on that.
thank you. This is my investment into being retired, but into Hamilton County schools, because a couple of them are already in the Hamilton County school system, and more will be joining them.
Let's talk a little bit about this school board race. Gary, we're talking to Gary Kuehn, school board candidate in District 9 of for the Hamilton County in the Republican primary. Gary, why are you qualified to serve on the Hamilton County School Board?
Well, I am a retired educator of 39 years, and 36 of those 39 years have been in the District 9 community. My first year of teaching was in East Ridge, but then I went to Birchwood and taught when Birchwood had a middle school for a couple years. When they were closing their doors, I started teaching and coaching at Central High School, taught for 14 years there, and then they transitioned me into being an assistant principal there at Central High School. I did that for a couple years, and then took over when Mr. LeBron Sturkey retired from Hunter Middle School. I took over at Hunter Middle as the principal there for 4 years. When the adult high school, which was actually a project of mine during PEF Leadership Fellows Program, when that became available, I became the principal of Hamilton County Adult High School until finally had to close those doors and reopen Harrison Bay Vocational School a couple years ago to what is now called Harrison Bay Future Ready Center. So in those 39 years, 36 of those I've spent in 5 different schools in District 9. And I think that is a big factor in having, insight into what's needed as a school board member. The skills that I received from this time, I've worked with budget creation, budget implementation. I've been a problem solver for students, parents, and teachers. I've worked with what's called balanced team leadership, sharing leadership with my faculty and parents, and then also community engagement and curriculum development, which all are a part of requirements for a school board member.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, you've got quite a resume there, Gary. Changing just a little bit, you are going to be representing a district, and we're going to talk about that just a little bit. But as you look at the whole Hamilton County school system with its 45,000 students, it's if you count the bonds involved, it's $500 million in going into the school system a year. They've got 6,000 plus employees. These children that are going through the schools are their dreams a lot of times are invested in these schools, or they enhance their dreams, or make possible their dreams. Employers are waiting to hire these young people, or they're hoping to move on into college or military or career or something like that. So, but as you look at the big picture, what do you see as the challenges facing the whole Hamilton County school system?
Well, most immediately, because of the pandemic, the most recent challenge is recovering learning loss from the last couple years. And Hamilton County's taking the right steps. I know if you look at what all large school systems are doing, Hamilton County is doing that right now. They're offering extra time during the summer, not summer school for those that failed. They're offering extra learning time. Last year they called it Q5, which was an extra month to get makeup work done, go in and do extra learning, redo things. And then they had, summer school after that. So they built in some time. Right now, they've used some of the, I don't know what you really call it, COVID money to provide contracts for teachers for after school tutoring, Saturday school tutoring. They've been trying to work out times outside the normal school day for students that need it to catch back up. And that's really the way to do it. And most large school systems are doing that.
Good.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. What else is kind of the big 30,000-foot issue, you think?
Yes. I think the next thing that needs to be looked at, and this isn't quite as easy as offering time, and that's what's not to be confused with an IEP, which is a inclusion program, but what's called an ILP, an individualized learning plan for students. So what that involves is, and it's picking out where students need the most help. They might be behind in math, and they might not need that extra humanities elective. Even though in Hamilton County, we say they have to have a certain number of electives in these certain areas. If you look at an individualized plan, the state doesn't require that, the county does. So you can do away with this particular elective to give them more time in a math or a language arts class to catch back up and get back on pace. And I think that's a good exchange of time. So there you're actually doing it during the school day. And then also there's a third option that many large systems are using, and that's involving community organizations such as the YMCA and community centers to work alongside, but in a virtual setting. So they're not providing the curriculum, but they are providing the computers, and the students are actually working virtually, but they have an adult present to talk to, and that is they do that. So that's the most recent challenge, I think, that needs to be addressed because of the pandemic. I think that the other two are that we keep on hearing about is improving the early childhood literacy, which both language arts and mathematics we have to look at and try to get kids back on pace by third grade. And in third grade, they say, is a big indicator of a lot of different things. Social emotional, it's, it kind of tells you where students are going to be in their high school times, but more importantly, what they do, reading and writing and even mathematics, kind of gives you a good indicator of how successful they'll be in high school. Mm-hmm. So the idea is, trying to get more students involved in pre-K programs. Right now, pre-K is not free for all, but I know, there's hopes that anybody can eventually get pre-K for ages 4 and above at no cost. And I think the county is hoping to work toward that. I think looking and maybe working with whoever's over the Tennessee lottery to involve more funds for that. I know the Tennessee lottery cannot help, from what I understand, it can't help K through 12, but it can help post high school, or it can help preschool. So, maybe getting some more funding there if possible. And then the third challenge that I personally see is the challenge for more vocational ed programs and more vocational ed schools. And this is not a cheap this is not a cheap direction, because anytime you're talking about vocational education, you're talking about expensive equipment, you're talking about liability and insurance, but coming from being the principal of the adult high school was there because so many students were dropping out and they weren't finding their niche or their interest, and they were coming to the adult high school. We've reopened some of the Future Ready centers, and actually that has helped on some of the dropout rate, but there needs to be more programs and more schools open to meet the needs, especially for males. If you look at the dropout rate between male and female, it's about 65% male, 35% female. And the need for vocational ed is a great need, not just for all, but especially for male students.
Wow, quite a thing. All good answers. Let's move on to the next question, Gary. We asked the same questions to everybody we've interviewed. What are going to be your priorities? You've got all these schools in District 9, but so we've talked about the big issues. You can't work on everything. You'd like to, but you all only meet so often, and so what are going to be your priorities as you move into this new role?
Well, I think the first priority is going to be listening to parents and teachers of my district, District 9. I know right now there is a large, compared to normal year to year, there is a large group of teachers that could be exiting this school year. And I think that would possibly create a hole that would not be filled in it for a long time. I know UTC and Lee University, who put out the most student teachers in Hamilton County, have both said that their number of incoming freshmen this year that were choosing education as a career is down about 40%. So if we're not getting teachers coming in and we're losing teachers right now, to try to fill a sub at times is an impossibility. There's teachers that are having to cover during their planning times, and there are actually schools that are paying teachers to teach during their planning time. It's just wearing a lot of teachers out. So I think to try to retain and support our current professionals and treat them like professionals is probably the number one priority. The second priority that I think I have expertise in is to promote and try to get something going with more vocational ed schools. I've met with Miller Industries for welding. I've met with IBEW for the electrical, and I've met with Local 43 plumbers and steam fitters, and all of them are on board and ready to help Hamilton County if they can open up more schools like what's the Marianne Garber position, the new all-encompassing vocational school that's down off of Glass Street.
Right.
They hope to open up more of those. So that, I think I have a very strong area that I could help in those. And I've worked with these organizations previously when I reopened the Harrison Bay Future Ready Center. And then the third, the third priority would be somehow helping in with established pre-K programs and getting people more involved. Parents, especially greatest teachers of their own children, have got to start getting involved in the early childhood development and literacy improvement. But that's an area that I would be a listener and a learner. It's not my direct expertise area. I've never been in the elementary school age and that, but being a grandparent and a parent, I do know, what I've done and what I continue to do, and can help with suggestions there. So
Good. Well, great answers. Again, we're talking to Gary Kuehn. He's running for District 9 School Board in the Republican primary, which early voting is in April. General election, the primary election day is in May. I think it's May 3rd, I believe. And
yes, that's correct.
Gary, in terms of being on the school board has three things that are really important that they do. They're primary management tools. You are like a board of directors, and so you have you hire or fire, maybe both, the superintendent. Two, you create the budget. You can go through it line by line, and you all meet. You have special sessions where you discuss budget issues. I know it's a thick document. I know it's 400 or 500 pages, and but it's your primary tool to control where resources flow so that things get done, or that things don't get done that you don't like. And then the third priority, third thing that you all do is you establish policy. But probably the thing that we can ask you the most about that hopefully you've done so far, because the policy issues things seem to be more seasonal. Sometimes you're dealing with one thing, sometimes you're dealing with another, and it's hard to say what you're going to be dealing with coming up. But have you studied the budget, both operational and capital?
Yes. So I have.
And any conclusions? I know it's complicated.
Well, it is. So the capital, when you're talking about the capital budget, you're talking about who's providing funds locally, how many funds are being provided locally by the state and federal. And then there's also bonds and grants and different things. And right now, federal money because of COVID and stuff that's coming in that might be a one-time thing, or again, for a second year, there's extra money there. But the important one is really the operational budget, and that's how we're using the money that we're provided, whether it's local, state, and that. And looking at it, 55% of the operational budget goes toward student achievement or anything involved in student achievement. So that means, that's paying for the salaries of the teachers. It's paying for the textbooks and equipment, things like that. 16% is operations. About less than 1% is toward what's called communities. Almost 2.5% for the new what's called future ready programs. And then great teachers and leaders makes up 22%. And people don't realize the main thing there is your step increase. So, when you think of the budget, you have the initial salary that everybody's being paid at, but then as roughly every 5 years, when you get a step increase, you've got to figure, those teachers are getting an extra bump in salary. And that's that part called great teachers and leaders. And
very good.
The state pulled, a lot of people don't realize it, but the state pulled a lot of that money away a few years back. They do pay for what's called career ladder if you were a part of that. But there's probably maybe 10% of the teachers left in Hamilton County right now that are a part of the career ladder program. That was something that went on back in the 80s and the first couple years of the 90s. So if you weren't teaching back in the 80s and 90s, you're not a part of career ladder. So those incentives aren't there anymore for the regular teacher. So
Good, great answers. Great answers. Last question, Gary. Will you support a tax increase for Hamilton County Schools?
well, so this is the question that a lot of times, does a person in, but I'm an honest individual. The school board does not increase taxes, but you use the word support. The county commission determines tax increases in that. But I look at what the needs are right now, and the needs to regain lost learning, that's coming from federal money. So that's, we're the extra summertime, the extra contracts for after school and Saturday school, the federal government's providing that. But everybody you hear talking, all three mayors are talking about increasing vocational ed programs. So they want it to happen. Most parents you'll hear talking about know there's a need for vocational ed programs. It's hard to find a plumber. It's hard to find an electrician. It's definitely hard to find welders. So if we want that to happen, there has to be more money put, not just toward, trying to entice teachers to stay, which will take a little bit of financial support, but to provide these programs and to open up these schools or programs within schools that already exist. It's going to take funds, and to do this, it's going to take taxes. So yes, I believe in supporting a tax increase to pay for more facilities being built to reach the need. If you listen to one of our mayor candidates, he talked about 300 students dropping out a year. And I truly believe many of those would not drop out if they had vocational ed programs to turn to. Our issue right now is that there's only a couple of them that exist. And for many people to get to those, they have to provide the transportation themselves. So if we put a few more within their area that they live in, transportation and availability would be much easier.
Great.
So yes, I do support a tax increase.
Well, Gary, this has been a great interview. You by far of the people I've talked to have one of the best, you have some of the most thoughtful responses that I've heard so far. So we wish you well. You have two candidates in the primary, and so I bet you're out knocking on a lot of doors. And
got a trick knee that's bothering me lately.
Oh no, oh no, I know what that's like.
Wearing a brace, it helps.
So Gary, if people want to get in touch with you, if they've got additional questions or they'd like to volunteer for your campaign or make a donation or something, what's the best way to do that? Do you have a website or a Facebook page or a phone number or an email or what?
Yes. So my Facebook page is Gary Kuehn, and it's got a weird spelling, Kuehn, looks like Kuehn, but pronounced Kuehn, candidate for District 9 School Board. So if they type all that in, takes you to a Facebook page, and one of the first things that pops up is what's called donorbox.org. I have an Instagram page, Gary W. Kuehn, Gary W. Kuehn. Again, that'll lead you to the donor box, and then a website, Gary-Kuehn-schoolboard-D9 mailchimpsites.com. So one of the new websites, but basically if you enter my name, and very similar to the Facebook page, and the website is actually linked. If you go into Facebook or Instagram, there's a link to the website also. Okay. And the website is, the easiest spot where I could answer questions or things. I'm not big on Instagram, but I was told to try to set that up for the 18 to 29-year-old crowd. But I've answered many questions on Facebook or Messenger or even the website. So those are easy ways to contact me.
Well, great, Gary. It sounds like you're doing a full throttle ahead. So we do wish you well. We've been talking to Gary Kuehn, spelled Kuehn. I believe I'm right. But it's pronounced Kuehn, who's running for District 9 School Board up in the northern, I guess that'd be the northeastern part of the county, and representing some high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools, District 9, in the Republican primary. So, Gary, it's been great. Any last words before we sign off?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to come and share. And very few school board members are retired. I am retired, so I know I have the time to give to this. And I know it takes time. If somebody wants to do a good job for their stakeholders in their district, it will take time. And
Great. Well, Gary, thank you very much. And this has been Doug Daugherty with Gary Kuehn for Hamilton Flourishing. Have a great day.